So now we are going to look at how to use the PD Hearth Menu calculator. The reason we gave you this calculator is it could help you when you're trying to think of maybe or to organize or to plan recipes that you want to share with the community members as part of your support. Like you're saying, you want to do the Tom Brown approach. But this is not the only calculator that is available that can help you calculate the various food, the various recipes or the various nutrients that you need to have a complete meal. Before we go ahead, I wanted to make it clear that the information that you're going to look for, that we're going to discuss here, is really based on the training manual that was developed by World Vision. But any interpretation that we have, the presentation, any additions or omissions that are done during this presentation are not the responsibility of World Vision. It's important that we share that, since we're using a product that is not our own. Next. Yeah, this is an image of mothers in a village somewhere in Asia that are engaged in a hearth session. Hearth really is more like traditional. I don't know if you've seen when you go in the kitchen and they have the 3 stones where they're cooking from. So that's really a hearth. Although they're using a different type of local stove, but this is a group of mothers who have come and they are doing a cooking session as or a hearth session, because that's what you do during the PD Hearth. We're not going to go through the whole PD Hearth process, just how to use the calculator, but just tell you that the process is, after you've gone through the various activities that you need to do, at the end, mothers have to come together like they are here and cook a meal and eat it for 12 days. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's not the mothers that are eating the meal, it is the children who are enrolled in the program that are eating the meal, and this happens every day. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to implement these projects, it's not that you're just going to tell the mothers what to do. You actually have to implement it as a proper project. So this is just an image of one of those sessions. So we're going to look at the purpose of the menu, or a PD Hearth menu, and its definition, how you design the menu, and how to use the calculator. Those 3 aspects are what we're going to look at very quickly, because I think we have about 40 minutes. So the purpose of the menu, of the PD Hearth menu, really is the slide before. The purpose of the PD Hearth menu is to rehabilitate children who are moderately wasted. The slide before, yes, that one, is to rehabilitate children who are moderately wasted using locally available foods. And that's a very beautiful picture of a child who came the first day for the PD Hearth session, and that is them on their 12th day. So you're not using any SNF, you're using food that is within the community to be able to treat this child. It meets the specific nutrition requirements, and it is actually an additional menu to top up the regular food consumption. So we are not saying that the children will only eat this meal that they eat during the hearth session. No, we are saying that they have their meals at home, but they also come and have something during the hearth session. And that's something that they have, or that small meal that they have on that day, is really what tops up the nutrient and the energy requirements that they need for them to actually get treated. So it's important that they are not replacing this meal with other meals and saying, since you're going to eat this hearth meal, then you're not going to eat other meals. No, they have to continue consuming all their meals in addition to this particular meal. And it usually should be like a thick paste or a thick porridge. And you have to also have a snack. So it should be quick to prepare, and it helps, and it should be able to decrease the volume of the meal. So each hearth meal that we do should have a snack. So it should be like a small snack, maybe a fruit or a type of cake that you've made, depending on the nutrition composition, and then that thick porridge that they're going to consume. The meals that you have to input in, the foods that you have to put in your calculator, they must be nutrient dense, but they also must be accessible to the caregivers. So the way it works is, again, we're not going to go into details of PD Hearth. The way it works is you have to do in your community. You say there's a family that has a child A, or a poor family that has a child A who is healthy. And then there's family B that is maybe a poor household with a child that is not healthy or malnourished. Then there's family C that is a rich family, rich or wealthy family, but they have a child that is malnourished. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what foods and behaviors are engaged in this family where they are poor but their child is healthy? What do they eat? How do they eat it? What are the responsive and caregiving practices they engage in? What do they do differently, yet they're in the same community? So normally you look at the foods that they consume and their behaviors, and the idea is to sort of copy paste those behaviors to the other families and the foods to the other families. You'll find when you do that analysis, if we ever do a PD Hearth training, we'll look at this. So if you do that analysis, you usually find maybe it is the way they are cooking the food, or maybe it is one particular food item that the rest in the community consider it to be not cool or not good that they are consuming, or maybe they have better health seeking behaviors or something else that they do that makes them stand out. And so that is why we say you have to look for foods that are accessible to their caregivers. So these are foods already in the community. So this mother who is from a poor household is living in this community, is using the same resources in the community. So you say, what foods are this mother consuming? Of course, not only one mother, you have to look at, a given number of mothers. But the point is the foods have to be from that community, or they have to be accessible to the caregivers in that area. And ideally, the menu is something that should be consumed by all these children, including even the younger children, like those who are, those who have just started complementary feeding at 6 to 8 months. The menu that you develop, if you're going to use it for treatment of moderate acute malnutrition, it should be able to provide the nutrients as they have been mentioned there. So it shouldn't be so large because it is a single meal. They're supposed to eat it in one setting. So anywhere between 250 to 300 grams, because we're looking at a meal for one child. So you shouldn't hide it. If it's a lot, they'll not finish it. And so they're likely not to get all the calories you want them to get, which is between 600 to 800. But you see in brackets, we have between 500 to 600 kilocalories. And that is in context where you really have food insecurity. Yes. So your calories should range between 500 and 800, 500 being really the lowest, which is there's food insecurity in your context, like severe food insecurity, IPC3 kind of thing. The protein, you should be able to get at least 20, that meal for the hearth, that small meal that you're preparing, that specific meal, you should be able to give at least 25 to 27 grams. Vitamin A should be about 300 retinol equivalent. The iron, you should be able to get at least 8 to 10 milligrams. The zinc should be at least 3 to 5 milligrams. The vitamin C should be 15 to 25 milligrams. And the question will be, how do we calculate these? And the answer is the calculator will calculate them for you automatically. So as you're creating your menus, try to make sure that you get as close as possible to this. And who is involved? Ideally, we should be having staff that have been trained in PD Hearth, because then they have to know how to use this calculator. They have to test the initial designs. They have to use food scales, because you have to use a food scale to do the measurements. And then ideally also we need someone who is able to know how to convert home measures for the volunteers, because you're not going to tell a mother to measure 200 grams or maybe 70 grams of rice flour or rice. So we need someone who can be able to say 200, maybe 70 grams of flour is equivalent to, maybe if they have a local name for a spoon, so someone should be able to say this spoon, or this kind of cup. Like, we have, like in my country, you can find people in my country, like for example, if you need to tell someone 500 ml of water, you don't tell them 500 ml, you just tell them use the Tampeco cup, because there's a cup that is known. It's called Tampeco and it is 500 ml, and most homes, especially in villages, usually have those cups. And then for you to do this, you also need volunteers who are giving you feedback on the menu cost, on its acceptability, and the ones that are going to collaborate with the mothers in terms of cooking these menus. So in your case, when you're designing your cooking demonstration, which I assume is what you want to do, the meals that you get out, is you have to have these volunteers or these lead mothers, if they're there, or lead fathers, who are actually not only going to lead in the process of the cooking during the demonstration, but can also follow up these mothers to see if they're doing that particular work back in their homes when they go back. And of course, you definitely need to have the caregivers. For these menus to work, you need to sort of pre-test them, because you can mix different food items and it may taste funny for a child and a child doesn't eat it. So you need to make sure that during the demonstration, in the beginning phases, you actually prepare that meal and give it to the child and give it to the mother and see if they'll actually eat that food. Otherwise, you may demonstrate something, and then when they go back home, they will never implement what you've demonstrated for them. Although ideally, again, for the hearth, if it is a PD hearth session, they should be eating that food at the hearth session, which happens either at a volunteer's village or a community health worker's house or a volunteer's house or something. But it's important that the meals that you recommend or the recipes that you recommend have been pre-tested for their acceptability and test. And the mothers will give you feedback. They tell you this, yes, you have mixed an egg in injera, but it tastes funny. Maybe you should mix this or something, until you come to something that is acceptable to all of you. When you're designing the menu, you need the calculator, which is what our focus is for today. Ideally, you'd also need the PD Hearth analysis investigation findings, which is really what are the foods that are consumed by this poor household with a healthy child, and what are those foods that are common in all these households. And then you should also have like a local food composition table. But if we look at the calculator, we'll see that it's really made up of the foods that we mostly have in our area. And the good thing is that PD Hearth has been done in Ethiopia. So there are composition tables that have the foods that are in and around Ethiopia. If they're not there, you can actually add those foods in the calculator. We'll see how to do that. You also need the seasonal calendar. Why? Because we remember using locally available foods, and the locally available foods are seasonal. So if this season there's a mango, you probably want to use the mango as your snack. If next season it is guava, then guava should be your snack, because we need locally and readily available foods. We cannot start talking about, I don't know, apples, for a community deep in the village where they don't grow apples or they've never even seen apples. You also need a market survey. In this case, what we mean is you simply need information on the cost of the foods that you're going to include in your calculator. You also need a scale, because you need to measure the amount, the portions that are going to be consumed, and we look at that. And then you also need to be able to know the common home measurements that they do. If, for example, in Ethiopia, when you do a palm, that palm is equivalent to approximately how many grams. So you should be able to say 1 palm of rice flour, 1 palm of rice. But does that actually equate to the quantities that you have in the calculator? Yes or no? Or maybe a teaspoon. And then you have to define also the teaspoon, because different homes, different families, and different contexts have different types and sizes what they refer to as a teaspoon. So the calculator itself is an Excel-based tool, and it really simply quantifies the recipes that you're creating. That is, it shows the food amount, the food quantity or the nutrient quantity from that food, and the estimated cash value of that meal. The recipes, if it's a pumpkin, how much of the pumpkin you need, how much of the nutrients you're going to get from that pumpkin, and what would be the cost of that pumpkin. It is really a simplified calculation. It is based on locally available foods, like we have said, that the positive deviant mothers or families consume. You should ensure that the menu you're creating is affordable, and you should also ensure that you're very well aware of the nutrient values of the foods you're including in the menu. There could be a very unique food out there that is nowhere in the menu, and we can't find it anywhere in the food and agriculture food tables globally or anywhere. So unfortunately, even if that could be superfood, you would not be eligible to include it in here because you don't know the nutrient value, unless you take it now to the food bureaus to determine the value, the calories, the minerals, and the vitamins that it contains. Next. So what you need, in simple terms, you need the local foods that you're going to work with. You need the cost per 100 grams of each food item, not including the waste. So if it is, for example, an example of an orange. If it's an orange, you need cost per 100 grams, not including the peels of the orange. If it's a banana, you need 100 grams, cost of 100 grams, not including the peel of the banana. And we'll see, because it's something easy to do. Even when the foods are free, you also must have information that this is a food that is freely available. For example, some leafy vegetables just grow in the community and anyone can pick them, or some fruits in trees in the community where people just pluck and consume and they don't have to buy them. You need also be sure which of the foods they eat raw and which ones they eat cooked, because what I eat cooked may not be what my neighbor eats cooked. And then it's important that you know the local foods calendar, like the seasonality of the foods. Do we have injera 24/7, 365 days? Or are there times when the injera becomes expensive and we have to maybe consume rice or something like that? So the process is you contextualize the food composition table, which we may not have to do because I think the tables have already been contextualized for much of the foods in Ethiopia. You indicate the locally available foods. You make sure you're aware of the nutritional value of these foods in really, really small quantities. And then you start designing your menus. After you've designed your menus, make sure that you convert the quantities into local measurements or local measures. And this, we've said, it's done by, you along with the volunteers. And then you decide on how you're going to cook, do pilots or testing of this meal that you have prepared, and make adjustments where you needed. Always remember that the nutritional requirement is being followed. Next. Now we're going to look at the calculator itself. So I'm wondering if you can open, because you said you all have your computers. Is it possible for all of you to open that link? Just just react with the thumbs up once you've opened the calculator on your computers.
I sent it yesterday to all of you. It's an Excel file.
Yes, you did. Like, we can access it. I can access it. Yeah.
Can the rest access it? So for those of you who have opened it, please click the sheet that is written on master. When you click on the sheet that is written on master, it's going to give you the food composition table per 100 grams of the edible portion. So you have all these many foods classified in the 7 groups. You have grains and roots and tubers, legumes and nuts, dairy products, flesh foods. You continue eggs and egg products, fruits and vegetables, and all other categories. So this is a constant table. You cannot work on it. What you can change is what is in column H, which is cost of raw food. If I'm going fast, you let me know. I know we have 20 minutes, but we'll be able to do it. So the first step you're going to do when you're using the calculator is to write the cost per 100 grams of the raw food in that column that is called cost of raw foods. For foods that are obtained for free, you put 0. So how do you calculate the cost of raw foods? I'll give an example. Next slide. So for example, oranges. You buy 5 oranges and maybe they cost 1 beer. So the cost of 1 orange would be, I hope that's how you write the word beer, the Ethiopian beer, right? Is it double R or single R?
Double R, you are correct.
So 1 orange will cost 0.2 beer. So to find the cost of 100 grams of the audible portion of the orange, you're going to peel 1 orange. Yes? The assumption is that they're almost the same size. And then you weigh the orange and you record the weight of the orange in grams. So for example, once you've peeled the orange, you find out that it is 80 grams. So the cost of 100 grams of the edible portion of the oranges will be the total cost of 1 orange divided by 80 grams times 100 grams, which is going to be 0.25 beer. So which means the cost of 100 grams of the oranges or the raw portion of the orange is 0.25 beer. If it is a pumpkin, if it is, let's say if it needs, because you have to peel. So you'll buy it, you will peel it, and then you will wait, and then you will determine how much 100 grams of that yam would be in terms of the beer. Then you'll calculate. So that's the value you input in that section, which is called, that is in column H, which is cost of raw foods. So you have the list of all your foods, yes? So for example, if you're going to say you have oranges, you have banana, you have yam, you have the injera flour or rice flour or sorghum flour. So you input all the costs in there for these particular items. Next. Once you have done that, then you move on to the sheet in your calculator, which is called menu. So menu 1, so we can do menu 1. They give you different versions of menus that you want, but the idea is you can create up to 4 menus. So for example, if you have chosen, for example, if I may ask you, could you, let's create a virtual recipe, a virtual porridge. The one that you talked about that is used in one of the community, one is called Fabi. What are the ingredients in that porridge?
In Bapi, the ingredients are sorghum. They use the sorghum.
Yes.
Sorry, the maize flour, corn, which is the
Okay.
maize. They use the maize as to make the porridge. Some add oil, some add some add oil, and some use it. You make it with water, like they make the porridge in a boiled water.
So what makes it a nutritious porridge? Because this is just maize flour.
Yeah, they only make it that for since the food available, like in the market there is availability, but affordability is somehow compromised. They only make it from the local maize porridge only because of they couldn't afford other things also. Plus the knowledge gap is also that's why we want to work on the knowledge gap. I have also had
Okay.
yeah. I have
So
also
can we? Yes.
collected food availables on the market from out of the PD Hearth menu calculators. The food availables on the market, I have made market analysis.
Can we? Okay. I just want us to create a sample of a menu of a meal that we are going to prepare during our demonstration. So let's say we are going to create a high energy porridge. Yes. So
Yes.
we're going to use this is just hypothetical because I just want us to know how to use the calculator. So we are going to use maize flour.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Maize flour. I'm trying to write it in the chat. We're going to use maize flour. We're going to use cow. Do you have cow's milk or camel milk?
They
or
have
goat milk?
they have cow milk. They don't have goat milk.
Cow milk. We're going
I
to
could share it,
use oil. I'm just giving an example here for us to use oil. And then, of course, we're going to put water. And we are also, what else are we going to put? We're going to put a bit of sugar, let's say. Although not advisable, but we'll do that. So you go in your calculator, and then you're going to go to where you have menu 1. So A is the food group. So where would your maize flour fall?
On the meal column.
Yes, if
On
you
the
go to
food
the
group
meal
meal.
column, you click on the drop down button, and it's going to show you the different. So maize would be considered as part of grains, right?
Yeah.
So you'd click grains. And then B is food.
Yeah.
Are we all on the same page? Are we like say together with everyone else, or am I going very fast? Okay, I hope we are together. So B would be the food, and so this is where you'd write your maize flour. Yes, and then you go and look for the maize, and you can see we have different versions of maize if you've opened. We have maize flour whole grain yellow, which means the maize where they have not removed the husk. They just grind it the way it is. They don't do any removal of husks or removal of sheets or the jam or anything. And then we have normal maize if you don't know whether it is whole grain or not. Then we have the white one, which is whether it is boiled. Then we have the white one, which is dried and raw. I think since you're looking at flour, then it would be probably if it is white. I don't know. When you do your maize, is it white or is it yellow? When they're grinding it, do they remove the husks and the jam, or they leave those there?
No, it's like when they grind it, it turns to white. They remove those husks.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in the processing, do they remove the outer skin of the maize seed?
Oh, the maize seed. No, like.
Do they remove, like the maize seed has that yellow thing inside. Do they remove that or they leave it there?
Oh, they leave it there. They don't remove it.
So in your case, it would be maize, which is white, which is whole and dried and raw. So you'd click on that. And then the home measure, we can wait to do that later until we are very sure. And then quantities. So if we are making porridge for one child, how many grams do you think you need?
How many grams?
Yes. Cecile, can I
Like
share my
30.
screen? I want to share my screen as I manipulate the Excel.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So is everyone on a table that looks like what I'm showing here?
Yes.
Okay, so we said our first is maize and it's white. So how many grams approximately do you think a child would need? Let's say maybe 50 for starters, because this is a calculator. You're supposed to manipulate it until you get to the value that you want. So you see, when I put 50 grams, you're not supposed to touch anywhere in these yellow cells. So when I put 50 grams, it automatically calculates how many calories 50 grams would give me. How
600.
much protein? How much protein those 50 grams would give me? And then how much vitamin A, vitamin C, what else? Iron, zinc, and then it gives you the total cost of the food. But you see the total cost here I have is 0. Do you know why we have 0?
Because in the
Why do I have
masters,
0?
yeah, in the master column, and we didn't feed the cost of raw foods.
Exactly. If we had put, for example, if we know that 100 grams of the, I have to go back here and look for that maize. Which one was it? We used the one in column 10. So I have to come here and this is really very hypothetical, but you have to calculate it. So let's say that 100 grams of that maize costs how many beer?
Currently on the market, it costs 45 birr per kilo.
So 45 beer per kilo. If we want to know the cost of 100 grams, how would we calculate that?
One kilo is like 1,000 gram. 1 kilo is 1,000 gram. And if we want like 100 grams, we have to divide it by 10. So it would be like 4.5 birr per 100 gram.
So 4.5, right? So when you, of course it says dollars, but you'll know it's beer. So when you come here, you realize that the cost of the 50 grams of the flour that we want is 2.25 beer, right? Then we said we are going to, what else are we adding? We are adding milk. So milk is under milk products, I think, dairy products. And which milk are we looking at? Cow's milk raw, yes? Please
Yes,
come
cow
along with
milk raw.
me, because
Yeah, I'm
if you
with
don't,
you.
I'll not know.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I'm with you. Just I'm sliding fast.
Okay, I'm trying to be a bit fast because I don't want to keep you a lot of time. So maybe, again, this is really still an estimate. Maybe you're going to add 20 mLs of milk. But again, I don't have the cost here. So we have to go back the other side and look at, how much it would cost. But let's go later. We also wanted to add, what else? We wanted to add oil in this porridge. So that would be under fats and oils. I hope everyone can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then here we would look at the food. Which oil are we looking at here? Which oil are we using? Vegetable oil. Yeah, if they have groundnut oil, they can use it or whatever. But you say if they have ghee, and I know there's a lot of cow butter and ghee in Ethiopia, which I really like. So let's say vegetable oil. And then maybe you're going to put 10 ml because we don't need a lot of oil. And then we said you're going to add in a bit of sugar. Sugar would be what? I know it's not a healthy food, but I guess where would it be? Additional foods? Or let's see, miscellaneous. I think it would be
Sugar.
let's say, where is the line for sugars? Fruits.
It's on miscellaneous, number 9.
Okay. So when we come here, we're going to call it sugar white, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe, let's say you're going to add a teaspoon, which is again is too much. I'm not going to go into the cost. But now what you have to, then the snack, because there has to be a snack. What are they going to snack on?
I'm not sure, like,
Okay, let's say you're not going to have a snack because you may be doing a cooking demonstration, not a proper PD Hearth. So if you look at this, if you look at this table, it has calculated for you, if you provide this much food to the child, then you come down, it is showing you the kilocalories you're going to get from this meal will be 293, will be rather 306. That means you will be less by 293. Remember, this calculator is based on the minimum diet that you'd need to treat moderate acute malnutrition, which is 600 to 800 kilocalories or 500 to 600 in food insecure context. So which means you need to find a way of increasing the meal or the items up here so that you can increase your caloric quantity. It is the same for the H is vitamin protein. You're supposed to get at least 25 to 27 grams, but from this meal, you're only getting 5. So you're lacking 19, which means you need a lot more protein. For the vitamin A, you're supposed to be getting 300, you only have 125. So the green is what you will get from this meal. So in red is what you're lacking. So then what you do, you go back here and start, either you modify the quantities. Yes. And again, this is not correct because there's carrot here, which is not supposed to be there. So let me delete this. So if I do that, it is even. So now we have to go back and we modify this. So what are we going to do? So you could add another item, maybe an egg. Again, this is based on the list of foods that you have in the community. This is me just showing you how to manipulate this calculator. So let's say you're going to add an egg in your, and I assume it's a hen.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's a hen, maybe raw. And then you'll have measured that eggs, somewhere and gotten the quantities in 100 grams and put it in the master sheet. And then when we come here, you just say, let's say an egg is also 10 grams. I don't know. So when you add an egg, if you go back down, you realize, yes, your quantities have increased, even your protein has increased, but it is still not high enough. So you keep on manipulating until you get the quantities that you want here. Normally, the snack will also help increase the quantities, but since you don't have a snack. So anyway, that's how you manipulate the calculator until you get the appropriate quantity. So whatever menus you're going to design, make sure that you're getting as close as possible to the values that we have in column, the gray column. So calories, we need at least between 500 to 600. That is the lower level for food insecure context, but ideally 600 to 800. Protein, you need about 25 to 27. Vitamin A, this is what you need. Vitamin C, this is what you need. Iron, this is what you need. But the focus normally should be around the calories, the proteins, and vitamin A, the iron, and the zinc. And of course, the cost. As you're manipulating the food items, you're also supposed to be looking at the cost. you should have an idea and say, okay, is a family able to afford 13 beer or 14 beer for that meal? Yes or no? If they can't, then you have to work your way through. I'm not going to go into details of this because this then is just the calculation for 12 children who are in the PD Hearth. So for in your case, if you're like going to do a cooking demonstration and your demonstration is maybe 20 children, then you put 20 here, and then it will calculate for you the quantity, the amount of money you will be spending on 20 children during that demonstration, and the quantities you're going to need for the food items that you mentioned above. So if you're going to prepare that porridge for 20 children in your food demonstration, you would spend roughly 271 beer, and then you would need a kilo of maize flour, 400 mils of milk, 200 grams of oil, 200 grams of egg, not 200 grams, but not 200 eggs, but 200 grams of egg, which you'll have calculated. And then sugar, you will need 100 grams. That's why we're saying you need a scale. So then now it's important that you know 200 grams of egg is approximately how many eggs? Maybe it's 2 eggs or 3 eggs. Sugar, 100 grams is how many teaspoons? Maybe it is 20 teaspoons or 15 teaspoons, depending on the size of teaspoons you use in that community. And then milk, 400 mils. How will you measure the 400 mils? So this is how, in short, the calculator works. And then you can create this menu. Then you go ahead into menu 2, create another menu. You go ahead into menu 3, create another menu, so that you have different recipes that you can recommend for your for the mothers. Right? I think this is one I did for some other place where they had fish and they had greens and they mixed with nuts, and they had something that they call jaggery. And if you see, it would give you like the lowest level, which is between 500 to 600. But at least for some items, it would give you the recommended even higher, because when it goes in black, it means you've received much higher. And then you create as many menus as you can. This is also another menu that you can create. Any questions? Because I'm trying to rush through, but we're almost done. I think I'm going to stop sharing.